What kind of neighborhood tyrant pulls a gun on a soldier in her own driveway? The question burned in my chest as I stood on our porch, the summer air thick with tension, watching the scene unfold like a fever dream. Karen, our HOA's self-appointed enforcer, was screaming, her voice a serrated blade cutting through the quiet cul-de-sac. Her floral dress strained against her bulky frame as she jabbed a finger at my wife, Lena, who stood by our Jeep in her fatigues, her duffel bag still slung over her shoulder. Lena had just returned from a covert op in some godforsaken corner of the world, her eyes carrying that 1,000-yard stare I'd learned to recognize after 10 years of marriage. She was Delta Force, the kind of soldier who could dismantle a room full of enemies without breaking a sweat. But here she was, facing down a neighborhood busybody and two wannabe HOA security guards who looked like they'd just graduated from a mall cop academy. One of them, a twitchy guy with a patchy beard, had his hand on a holstered pistol, his knuckles white. I could feel my heart hammering, not out of fear for Lena, she could handle herself, but because I knew this was going to explode in ways Karen couldn't imagine. The cul-de-sac was a postcard of suburban perfection, manicured lawns, pastel houses, kids' bikes abandoned on driveways. But Karen had turned it into her personal fiefdom. For months, she'd been terrorizing the neighborhood with her endless rules grass too long. Trash cans out past 7 a.m. Unapproved mailbox colors. She'd slapped fines on us for Lena's Jeep, claiming its military aesthetic violated HOA standards. Lena, who'd been deployed for 6 months, hadn't even had a chance to respond. I'd tried reasoning with Karen, but she'd just smirk, her eyes gleaming with petty power. Rules are rules, Tom, she'd say, her voice dripping with condescension. Now, with Lena home for less than an hour, Karen had stormed over, flanked by her 2 goons, to enforce compliance. Lena stood calm, her posture loose but ready, like a coiled spring. "Ma'am, I just got back from a war zone," she said, her voice low, steady. "I'd appreciate it if you'd lower your tone." Karen scoffed, her face reddening. "Don't you ma'am me, soldier girl. This is my neighborhood, and your Jeep's an eyesore. Move it, or I'll have it towed." The twitchy guard shifted, his hand inching closer to his gun. I stepped forward, my voice sharp. "Karen, back off. She's not moving anything." Lena shot me a glance. "Stay out of this, Tom." But I couldn't. This was our home, our sanctuary, and this woman was turning it into a battlefield. The air crackled with tension as Karen's tirade escalated. She didn't know who she was dealing with. Didn't know Lena had faced down warlords and insurgents without flinching. But I saw the shift in Lena's eyes, the moment her patience frayed. She stepped closer to Karen, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You're standing on my property, threatening me. That's a mistake." Karen laughed, a harsh, grating sound, but there was a flicker of unease in her eyes. The second guard, a beefy guy with a buzz cut, spoke up, his voice shaky. "Ma'am, just comply, or we'll have to escalate." Escalate? I almost laughed. They had no idea what escalation looked like to someone like Lena. Then it happened, the twist that made my stomach lurch. The twitchy guard, maybe spooked by Lena's calm, pulled his pistol, aiming it at her chest. Time froze. The cul-de-sac went silent, the only sound my own pulse pounding in my ears. Lena didn't flinch, but her eyes locked onto the gun, calculating. I shouted, "Are you insane? Put that down." Karen smirked, folding her arms. You brought this on yourself, she said. Across the street, our neighbor Mike stood on his porch, phone in hand, recording. Good. Let the world see this madness. Lena's voice was ice. You've got 3 seconds to lower that weapon. The guard's hand trembled, his eyes darting to Karen for guidance. She nodded, emboldened. Do it, she hissed. She's not above the rules. I wanted to rush forward, to shield Lena, but I knew better. She was a force of nature, trained to neutralize threats in seconds. The guard didn't lower the gun. Big mistake. In a blur, Lena moved. One hand snapped the guard's wrist upward, the gun flying into the grass. The other guard lunged, but Lena sidestepped, dropping him with a precise strike to the knee. He crumpled, gasping. Karen screamed, stumbling back, her bravado gone. Lena didn't pursue. She just stood there, breathing steady, her eyes never leaving Karen's. You're done here, she said. The cul-de-sac felt like a war zone now, the HOA's reign of terror cracking under the weight of Lena's quiet strength. But this wasn't over. Karen's face twisted with rage, and I knew she'd come back swinging. She always did. She stormed off, muttering about lawsuits and disrespect, her goons limping behind her. Lena picked up the fallen gun, unloaded it with practiced ease, and tossed it into the Jeep. Tom, she said, her voice soft but firm. We're ending this. Tonight. I nodded, my chest tight with pride and dread. Karen had no idea what she'd unleashed. That evening, we sat in our living room, Lena still in her fatigues, her duffel bag unopened by the door. She was calm, but I could see the fire in her eyes, the kind that had carried her through missions I'd never fully know about. She's been bullying this neighborhood for years, I said, handing her a stack of emails complaints from neighbors about Karen's fines, her threats, her security patrols. Lena scanned them, her jaw tightening. This isn't just about us, she said. She's hurting people. We stop her. We called a neighborhood meeting, spreading the word through texts and whispers. By 8 p.m., our backyard was packed with neighbors Mike, who'd recorded the standoff, Sarah, a single mom fined for her kids' chalk drawings, old Mr. Jenkins, who'd been harassed over his garden gnomes. They were scared but angry, ready to fight back. Lena stood before them, not as a soldier, but as one of them, her voice steady. Karen's not the law. She's a bully hiding behind a clipboard. We take her power away. Together. The plan was simple but bold: gather evidence, expose Karen's overreach, and demand the HOA board dissolve her security team. Mike's video was our ace, but we needed more. Sarah revealed Karen had been pocketing fines, using them for personal expenses. Mr. Jenkins had photos of her goons intimidating his grandkids. Piece by piece, we built a case. But I knew Karen wouldn't go quietly. She'd built her empire on fear, and she'd fight to keep it. The next morning, we marched to the HOA office, a small building at the edge of the neighborhood. Karen was there, flanked by her goons, her face a mask of smug confidence. You think you can challenge me? She sneered, holding up a stack of violation notices. I run this place. Lena stepped forward, her presence commanding silence. Not anymore, she said, dropping a folder on the desk printouts of emails, photos, and Mike's video, now viral on the neighborhood's private X group. The room buzzed as neighbors murmured, their fear turning to resolve. Karen's smirk faltered. This is nonsense, she stammered. But her voice lacked its usual venom. The HOA board, a group of timid retirees, shuffled uncomfortably. Lena didn't let up. You've been extorting people, Karen, threatening them. And your security pulled a gun on me. That's not authority, that's a crime. The room erupted, neighbors shouting their own stories of harassment. Karen's goons shrank back, their bravado gone. Then came the twist that broke her. Mike stepped forward, holding up his phone. I sent the video to the police, he said. They're on their way. Karen's face drained of color. She tried to speak, but no words came. For the first time, she looked small, her power crumbling like a house of cards. The board, sensing the tide, voted on the spot to disband her security team and suspend her authority pending an investigation. Karen fled the room, her floral dress a blur, her empire in ruins. Lena and I walked home, the cul-de-sac quiet again, the air lighter. Neighbors waved, their faces bright with relief. Lena squeezed my hand, her eyes soft but fierce. This is why I fight, she said. Not just out there, but here. For home. I nodded, my heart full. Karen's reign was over. But Lena's strength had ignited something bigger, a community that wouldn't bow to fear again. We didn't celebrate long. Lena's phone buzzed. A coded message from her unit. She was needed back overseas. Her leave cut short. As she packed her duffel, I watched her, marveling at the woman who could face down tyrants abroad and at home. Stay safe, I whispered as she kissed me goodbye. She smiled, her eyes steady. Always. The neighborhood changed after that. We elected a new HOA board, one that listened. Neighbors started talking again, sharing stories, rebuilding trust. Karen moved away. Her house sold quietly. But Lena's courage lingered. A reminder that strength isn't just in fighting warsits and standing up, no matter the battlefield. The days after Karen's fall were quiet, but the kind of quiet that feels alive. Like the calm after a storm when the world starts breathing again. Lena was gone, back to her classified missions, leaving me with the echo of her strength in a neighborhood that was slowly stitching itself back together. I walked our dog, Max, through the cul-de-sac, noticing how neighbors waved more freely now, how kids played without looking over their shoulders for Karen's prying eyes. The HOA office, once a fortress of her petty tyranny, was just a building again, its windows open, letting in light. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd only won a battle, not the war. People like Karen don't just disappear, they fester. They scheme. They wait. A week later, I got a call from Sarah. Her voice was tight, urgent. Tom, you need to see this. She sent me a link to a post on X, a rant from an account called HOA Justice Warrior. It was Karen, spewing venom about ungrateful neighbors and that soldier woman who thinks she's above the law. She'd attached a grainy photo of Lena in our driveway, the moment before she disarmed the guard. The post had traction, hundreds of likes. Comments from strangers calling Lena a thug and Karen a victim. My stomach twisted. Karen was trying to rewrite the narrative, to claw back her power from a distance. I called Mike, who'd become our unofficial strategist. She's not done, he said, his voice grim. She's rallying people online, probably planning to sue. We met at his house. A small group of us, Sarah, Mr. Jenkins, and a few others who'd borne the brunt of Karen's wrath. Mike pulled up more posts. A whole thread of lies painting Karen as a martyr. She's got no case, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Karen had money, connections, and a knack for manipulation. We needed to shut this down before it grew legs. Lena's words echoed in my head. We stop her. Together. I texted her, knowing she might not see it for days. But I needed her clarity. Karen's back, stirring trouble online. What do we do? Her reply came hours later. A single line. Truth is our weapon. Use it. I stared at the words, feeling her strength across oceans. She was right. Karen's lies thrived in the dark. We'd drag them into the light. We went to work. Mike combed through X, archiving Karen's posts before she could delete them. Sarah dug up old HOA records, proving Karen's misuse of funds. Mr. Jenkins, surprisingly tech-savvy, found a local reporter who'd been following HOA scandals. We packaged everything: Mike's video, the financial records, neighbor testimonies, and sent it to the reporter. By the next day, a story broke on a local news site. HOA tyrant exposed. Neighborhood fights back. The article was brutal, laying out Karen's abuses in stark detail, with Mike's video as the centerpiece. It spread fast, shared across X and beyond, drowning out Karen's lies. Karen's account went silent, but I knew she wasn't done. Sure enough, a week later, a process server showed up at our door with a lawsuit. Karen was suing us for defamation, claiming we'd ruined her reputation. I laughed, bitter. She'd done that herself. But the legal threat was real, and with Lena deployed, I felt the weight of it alone. I called our lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel who'd dealt with HOA cases before. She's got nothing, Rachel said, scanning the complaint. But she's banking on you settling to avoid the hassle. I wasn't settling. Not after what Karen had done to Lena. To all of us. The court date came fast. The courtroom was small, stuffy, packed with neighbors who'd shown up to support us. Karen sat across from me, her face a mask of righteous indignation. Her lawyer spinning a tale of her as a dedicated community leader smeared by vigilante neighbors. I wanted to scream. But Rachel was a shark, dismantling their case with surgical precision. She played Mike's video, showed the financial records, called Sarah to testify about Karen's threats. The judge's face hardened with every piece of evidence. Then came the moment that sealed it. Rachel called me to the stand. I told the truth about Lena's service, Karen's harassment, the gun in our driveway. My voice shook, not with fear, but with anger, with pride for my wife. She's out there risking her life for this country, I said, and she came home to a gun in her face. That's not justice. The courtroom was silent, the weight of my words sinking in. Karen's lawyer tried to object, but the judge waved him off. The ruling came fast. Karen's lawsuit was dismissed. The judge didn't stop there. He ordered an investigation into her financial misconduct, citing credible evidence of fraud. As we left the courtroom, neighbors clapped, some in tears. Karen sat alone, her head bowed, her empire not just crumbled but obliterated. I felt no pity. She'd chosen this path. Back home, I stood in our driveway, staring at the spot where it all went down. The cul-de-sac was alive again, kids biking, neighbors chatting, laughter spilling from open windows. Lena's absence ached, but her strength was everywhere, in every smile, every fearless step forward. I thought of her out there, in some distant danger zone, carrying the same fire that had saved our home. A month later, I got a letter from Lena. Handwritten. Rare. Tom. It read, "You did it. You fought for home. Just like I do. I'm proud of you." My eyes stung as I read it. Standing in our kitchen. Max at my feet. The neighborhood wasn't just ours, Anna Marie, it was ours together. A community forged in the fire of standing up. Karen was gone. Her shadow erased by the truth. But Lena's light, her courage, burned brighter than ever. A beacon for us all.